God says, "My child, this message is not coincidence. What has been hidden under your name is not only about money, it's about manipulation. But heaven is now opening the files no human eye could ever access. You were restless that night. Something in the air felt off, like silence holding its breath. You didn't know why, but your heart kept racing as if someone, somewhere, had spoken your name without permission. And that's when the dream came. A table. A document. Your name signed on papers you never touched. And beside it, a shadow, watching, waiting, profiting. When you woke, you couldn't shake it. That feeling of being used. Of something spiritual trying to show you what the physical world hid too well. Hours later, as you walked by your window, you noticed the clouds splitting in one strange beam of light. It wasn't normal sunlight. It shimmered, pulsed, moved like it was searching. And then, in that light, a figure appeared, strong, radiant, armored in brilliance. Archangel Michael. His eyes burned with fire that saw through every deception. "Listen carefully," he said. "Heaven has located the account. It exists in more than one form. Not only financial, but energetic. What was stolen under your name is about to be restored under your favor." Your breath caught. He continued, "For too long, you were unaware of how they moved, people who smiled in your presence but whispered in secret rooms. They used your identity in spirit and in system, but heaven has traced every transaction. Not a cent, not a signature, not a scheme escapes divine audit." He lifted his hand, and suddenly, golden light spread across the sky, forming a ledger, alive, glowing, full of names. You saw yours written at the center, surrounded by golden circles like divine protection. Michael's voice deepened. "This is heaven's record, not the world's. What belongs to you is being unlocked. Every deceitful connection to your name is now dissolving." Thunder echoed, but it wasn't storm, it was justice moving through air. The angel's wings unfurled, and beams of light pierced the shadows. You saw faces, familiar ones, of people who had secretly benefited from your struggle, from your silence. Their names flickered, fading out of the heavenly ledger one by one. Michael looked down again. "The time of silent theft is over," he said. "Heaven does not overlook what is falsely signed. Every earthly file that carries your name is being inspected by divine authority. What was used to block your blessing will become the path for your restoration." You tried to speak, but your voice trembled. "Why now?" you whispered. Michael's eyes softened. "Because you finally stopped doubting your worth. The moment you forgave, heaven could investigate. Forgiveness is the password that opens sealed files. Lightning flashed, not to destroy, but to reveal. For the first time, you saw it clearly. This wasn't just about banks or money. It was about energy. Some people had been living off your light, your effort, your name, siphoning blessings that were yours. But that cycle had expired. Heaven had logged out every imposter. Michael's final words echoed before he faded into the dawn. A divine reversal has been initiated. What was stolen will return sevenfold. Check your life, not your balance. The deposit is spiritual first. And as he vanished, a quiet notification from heaven pulsed in your heart. Case reopened. Justice processing. The night after Michael's visitation, everything around you felt different. Even silence had sound. It was like heaven's servers were humming in the background, quietly syncing your destiny with divine justice. You couldn't sleep. The words, "Heaven's record," kept replaying in your mind. You sat up in bed, opened your notebook, and wrote your own name at the top of a blank page. The moment your pen touched the paper, the air shifted. A low vibration pulsed through the room, steady, deliberate, intelligent. "This is the audit," came the voice, strong, commanding, yet calm. It was Michael. Not in a vision this time, but in presence. You could feel him near, like heat behind your shoulder, like clarity pressing into your mind. Every false document, every hidden signature, every manipulation tied to your energy is being reviewed, he said. You looked around, the walls shimmered faintly, as if the very air had become transparent. Lines of light scrolled across them, glowing gold, filled with symbols you couldn't read but somehow understood. "These are not financial ledgers," Michael continued. "These are spiritual accounts, agreements people made without your consent. Promises made in your name but against your peace. For years they borrowed your favor without your knowing." He raised his sword, not to strike, but to point. Instantly, the walls changed. You saw glimpses, someone smiling in your face while speaking your name in jealousy. Another person doubting you in public but imitating your strength in private. Old connections that looked innocent but were draining your energy behind the scenes. Michael's tone hardened. "They called it opportunity. Heaven calls it theft." The sword's edge glowed white-hot. Each face you saw dissolved into light, not in punishment, but exposure. "Every false tie is being severed," he declared. "Every illegal withdrawal from your destiny account ends tonight." Thunder rolled, but it didn't frighten you. It sounded like confirmation, like heaven stamping, reviewed, on every case. You felt the air clear, the heaviness lift. Your body tingled with a strange freedom, like chains you didn't know existed had just been filed under, released. Michael stepped closer. His eyes softened. Do you know why you were chosen for this? You shook your head, silent. He smiled faintly. Because you didn't curse the takers. You prayed for understanding. Mercy grants access to deeper justice. He waved his hand, and suddenly, the page in your lap, the one with your name, glowed gold. New words appeared beneath it, written in light. Account reactivated, balance restoration initiated. Tears filled your eyes. Michael nodded. This is not metaphor, he said. Watch how the physical will now mirror the spiritual. Unexpected funds, divine reimbursements, peace in places that used to drain you, all of it is the manifestation of heaven's audit. He raised his sword again, the light bursting across the room like dawn. The system is resetting. The righteous will no longer live in deficit. The name they used to deceive will become the key that redeems. You felt warmth spread through your chest, a surge of gratitude, energy, alignment. The angel's voice deepened to a whisper that shook the soul. Heaven keeps receipts. Then, silence. The kind that follows verdict. Outside, the wind shifted direction. The first light of morning touched your window like a signature. The audit was complete. You didn't just feel vindicated, you felt reborn. And somewhere beyond sight, the Archangel stood watch, sword still drawn, ensuring every transfer of justice reached its rightful destination, the transfer. The morning after the audit felt weightless. You woke up to the kind of silence that isn't empty, it's expectant. It felt like the universe was waiting for you to notice something. The sunlight spilling through your window wasn't ordinary. It flickered, bright, soft, golden. Each ray felt alive, like a signal. You reached out instinctively, and as your hand passed through the light, a warmth spread through your palm, your arm, straight into your chest. The transfer has begun, came the voice, clear, resonant, undeniably familiar. Archangel Michael. The air thickened, and the golden light converged into form. He stood before you again, no longer a figure of battle, but a figure of order. Calm, dignified, and surrounded by waves of white fire that looked like data streams flowing through heaven itself. The records have been reconciled, he said. Now, every rightful portion will find its owner. Every withheld blessing will locate its original name. And your name glows brightest among them. You could feel something happening, not around you, but within you. It was as if parts of your spirit that had been missing were suddenly coming home. Old hopes reignited. Forgotten opportunities resurfaced in your memory. Faces you hadn't seen in years flashed across your mind, people tied to seasons of loss, now fading into peace. Michael raised his hand, and an intricate pattern of light appeared in the air, lines and circles moving like living circuitry. "This is the divine network," he explained. "Everything stolen from you passed through it. Heaven does not delete transactions, it reroutes them. When the audit closes, the system transfers wealth, strength, peace, whatever was taken, back to its rightful spiritual account." He gestured again, and the pattern began pulsing faster. "Watch closely," he said. The symbols shifted, aligning themselves around your name. From the edges, golden light began to move inward, wave after wave, like deposits returning to the source. The moment the final line connected, you felt it. Not in your wallet, in your atmosphere. A heaviness lifted. Your mind cleared. A deep calm filled your stomach, replacing the old tension you thought was permanent. "This is abundance," Michael said. "Not just money. Abundance of peace, clarity, influence, and trust. Heaven restores in every currency." You tried to speak, but your voice caught in awe. Michael stepped closer, his gaze sharp but compassionate. "This transfer cannot be stolen," he said. "Because it doesn't live in banks or hands. It lives in alignment. When you walk in truth, you automatically access what truth protects." He reached out, touching your shoulder lightly. "Walk with clean intention," he continued. "For every step taken in integrity triggers another deposit. Every act of forgiveness multiplies favor. The new system doesn't reward effort, it rewards energy." Behind him, the golden network expanded, spreading beyond your room, over your city, across nations. You saw names, countless ones, each receiving their portion as divine light streamed into their lives. "This," Michael said with quiet power, "is heaven's economy. Where justice is currency, and gratitude is investment." You stood there, trembling with peace. Michael smiled faintly. "They thought they could bankrupt your spirit," he said. "But heaven never loses track of inheritance. You are liquid in faith, unfreezable, unstoppable." The glow around him brightened. "The transfer is complete," he declared. "But remember, the greater wealth is wisdom. Protect what you now understand." Then, as the light faded into daylight, you heard one last whisper, not loud, but absolute. Transaction confirmed. Restoration permanent. The revelation of the thief. The night after the transfer, you slept deeply, the kind of sleep that feels earned, not escaped. But near dawn, the light changed again. It wasn't the warm gold of restoration, it was sharper, investigative, the color of truth in motion. A low hum filled the air, not angry but alert, like heaven preparing to testify. And then, he appeared again, Archangel Michael. This time, his armor shimmered not with glory but with discernment. His wings flickered like pages being turned in a cosmic record. The transfer is complete, he said. Now comes the revelation. Heaven never restores without teaching who caused the loss, not to shame, but to seal the lesson. He lifted his hand, and the air fractured like glass. From the cracks emerged faces, memories, moments, people you once trusted, situations that once felt harmless. But behind each image was a shadow, and that shadow was identical. It wasn't one person. It was a pattern. This, Michael said, is the spirit of theft. It wears many faces. Sometimes it looks like friendship, sometimes opportunity, sometimes love, but its aim is always the same, to use your energy without gratitude. The shadow twisted, shifting through familiar outlines, family, coworker, lover, stranger. Every version smiled differently, but the eyes stayed cold. Michael's voice thundered. They did not steal your money. They stole your momentum. They took your trust to power their comfort. But now their supply is cut off. He swung his sword through the air, and the shadow screamed without sound. It dissolved into dust, leaving only light in its wake. The thief is not a person, Michael continued softly. It is a mindset, scarcity disguised as strategy. It entered your circle when you began doubting your worth. That doubt was the door. Tonight, that door is sealed forever. You felt your heart tighten, then release. Tears came, not of sadness, but of clarity. Every betrayal suddenly made sense. Every loss now looked like training. Michael looked directly at you. The greatest revelation is not who betrayed you, he said. It's who you became because they did. He pointed at your chest, and a faint glow emerged from your heart, a mark that pulsed gently with light. This is divine insurance, he explained. Anyone who attempts to misuse your name again will face exposure before execution. Heaven has installed truth as your defense system. Every lie will announce itself before it can harm you. The air stilled. The angel's wings folded, and his tone softened again. Don't carry anger into this next season, he said. Carry awareness. Peace is stronger than revenge. And wisdom is wealth that can't be hacked. As he turned to leave, a final gust of wind swept through the room, scattering tiny sparks that looked like glowing receipts falling from heaven's files. You caught one, it shimmered, then vanished, leaving 2 words in your spirit. Case closed. And for the first time, you smiled without fear. Not because everything made sense, but because now, everything served purpose. The return. Morning rises like a verdict delivered. The light that enters your home feels purposeful. It doesn't just illuminate, it announces. Something has changed. The world recognizes your clearance. You sense it first in the smallest ways, your breath steadier, your reflection calmer. You move through rooms without the invisible weight you once carried. It's as if creation has recalibrated to your new frequency. Then the air hums again, familiar, holy, precise. Archangel Michael stands at the edge of the light, the sword no longer flaming but glowing softly, like justice in rest mode. The accounts are balanced, he says. Now the returns will manifest. He gestures toward the window. Outside, the wind begins to move differently, circling rather than rushing, forming patterns that shimmer like currency made of light. Every seed you sowed in pain, he continues, is now maturing in peace. The same hands that once took will now open in apology or distance, both are blessings. He lifts one palm and hundreds of radiant strands shoot upward, threads of past effort, forgotten prayers, lost chances. Each thread reconnects, forming constellations over your life. This is the return, he says. Not luck, not coincidence, divine yield. You planted faith in ground salted with betrayal, and heaven has made that soil fertile again. You watch as the threads begin dropping gifts of energy back into you, confidence, ideas, reconciliation, opportunity. The sensation feels like exhaling after years of holding your breath. Do you see now? Michael asks. Restoration is not just what you receive, it's what you remember, that you were never truly lacking, only delayed. He moves closer, wings folding until the feathers nearly touch the floor. This next chapter will feel lighter, he says. Not because life becomes simple, but because deceit no longer drains you. You've become too transparent to trap. The air brightens further. You glimpse faces of people coming toward your path, some to help, some to learn, some to heal beside you. Each carries a fragment of the peace now radiating from your spirit. Michael smiles slightly. Heaven returns in installments, he says. Each moment of gratitude will trigger another deposit. Don't chase the outcome, stay aligned, and it will find you. He reaches out, tracing a glowing circle above your head. From this day forward, he declares, everything tied to your name will glow under truth's light. Nothing false can attach to you again. Then, slowly, he steps back into the brightness. Before fading completely, his voice fills the room, gentle, certain, infinite. The thief was exposure. The audit was cleansing. The transfer was balance. The return is testimony. The light dissolves. Silence returns, but not the old silence. This one hums like destiny settling into place. You close your eyes, whispering the only words that fit. Case closed. Blessing open. The eternal seal. That night, sleep doesn't come the way it used to. It descends softly, like a prayer wrapping itself around you. No fear. No question. Just silence that finally feels safe. And in that silence, a final vision opens, not loud, not dramatic, but holy. You're standing at the same table where it all began, the dream that showed your stolen name, the files, the false account. But this time, the table is clean. Empty. Cleared. The light above it glows steady and unblinking, the color of heaven's final word, completion. Then you feel the air shift again. Not a gust, not thunder, just a warmth that means he's here. Archangel Michael steps forward one last time. No armor, no flame, only stillness. The kind that doesn't need to prove itself. My child, he says, you have reached the end of investigation and the beginning of inheritance. His voice carries peace deeper than any sound could travel. The account is no longer open for review. It's sealed, eternally, under your name. He raises one hand, and from it falls a single drop of light. It lands on the table, spreads, and carves 3 golden words into the surface. Justice, mercy, memory. These, Michael says, are the pillars of your record. Justice for what was taken. Mercy for those who took. Memory of who you became through both. You look down, and the words sink into the table, dissolving into pure radiance. The whole room breathes once, and when it exhales, everything fades into white. Heaven does not forget honesty, he whispers. And the universe never loses what you learned in pain. He steps back, wings spreading wide enough to cover horizon after horizon. Each feather shines like an archive of every battle you survived. This is your seal, he says. Not a lock, but a legacy. It cannot be reversed, revoked, or removed. Wherever your name appears, in spirit, in story, in future, light will recognize it. The glow around him begins to rise higher, brighter, until his form becomes part of the sky itself. And just before he disappears, you hear his final words. Not shouted, but spoken like a law that creation must obey. It ends in peace. It always ends in peace. The light folds inward. Silence returns, not empty, but finished. You stand still, realizing that everything stolen was just heaven's way of showing what could never truly be taken. And as dawn breaks, the sun itself feels like a seal pressed onto the world, glowing, golden, permanent. Case closed. Heaven smiling. The record of your name, eternal.